This place has everything. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
That performance deserves a holy walawa.
It's a feeling you cannot explain.
This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon.
And welcome to that post-game show out west for that team out west. I'm Ted LaRue. Well, it rained in Autzen Stadium. It was looked like it was certainly downpouring out there in the Pacific Northwest. The weather might have had something to do with this, but I think maybe the performance on the field goes beyond the weather. 541-357-6390. 541-357-6390. The TSOW text line. We're going to change it and we're going to double it into the TSOW talk and text line here momentarily before I kind of get what I want to say right out of the bat here. This was tough. This was tough. Like, let's not sugarcoat this. I'm not a guy that sugarcoats anything. If you're good, I'll tell you you're great. If you're bad, I'll tell you you suck. I mean, that's just how it is. And I think in this game, this is right off the bat. I think Dan showed via the onside kick that he kind of knew that he was playing with house money. He knew that he was playing with an advantage throughout. He knew that this Wisconsin offense was going to be bad. And he's like, I don't care where they get the ball. Let's try to jump on them early. Let's try to get that early advantage and get out this thing. And that first drive, I mean, you look at the pass protection, you look at the early run blocking. Now, the run blocking got better, and I think they started to figure some things out, certainly, in the second half. Just 39 yards on the ground in the first half for the Ducks. I think it was right around 2 yards per carry. I think 2.1 specifically on the ground. They really had a tough time in that first half. You got to give a lot of credit to Wisconsin defensively. Those boys, they were flying around the football. They didn't get faked out by the misdirection. Coming into the football game, here's what I kind of said, and it wasn't just me. I think a lot of people said it based on what we've seen from Wisconsin. This was a much better run defense. It was a much worse passing defense. And then when you have the sideways rain and you have the wind and all of the other factors that kind of went into what the weather was early in this game, maybe, I'm not saying totally 100%, but maybe that prevented Will Stein and Oregon from going down the field more than they wanted to. It certainly didn't look like an ultra-aggressive approach from the very beginning in this matchup. I certainly want to say that. There's no doubt about that. Like, there's not much you can say about the defense in this game. Wisconsin is a terrible offense. I mean, this is Brian Ferentz, Iowa type of offense. So, but let me backtrack that actually a little bit. This is live, right? We do it on the fly here. Here's what I will say about the defense. This defensive line and this defensive front, and I think a lot of this can maybe go to the linebackers as well. I've kind of talked about that on previous editions of TSOW. A lot of other people have kind of mentioned, like, we're just not as good at the linebacker position as it is at the defensive line or as it is back there in the secondary. Like, the secondary is reading the run and responding to the run better. Guys like Dylan Thieneman, guys like Aaron Flowers, you know the suspects. They're responding and reading the run better than maybe some of these linebackers are at times. But this was a run game for Wisconsin that in the first half, they were just it looked like old school Badger football a little bit, mostly because that's all that the Badgers had offensively. Gideon Ituka, 21 carries, 85 yards. That's 4 yards per carry. And that was the only thing that Wisconsin had going for them. That's it. There was nothing that they could do down the field. And yet there were times where Oregon was still getting out physical on an offensive line that was down Jake Renfro. They were down, I think, an offensive tackle, at least from the beginning of the season. Like, this is kind of a makeshift patchwork Wisconsin offensive line, and they were still pushing Oregon on the other side of the line of scrimmage when they had no passing game, when there was no other option. And let me add another layer onto the cake. This was the fourth-string running back for Wisconsin. Dylan Jones out for the season. Darian Dupree did not go in this game. You had Cade Yakimelli, which we saw him during this game, and then he went out with an injury. And then you had Gideon Ituka during this game, and he he just kept on going off that left side, off that right side. They were able to get a push in that run game. So that's not great. I certainly don't love that. And then the broadcasters kind of touched on it down there by the goal line. It's interesting. You have a championship team in the same conference in Ohio State. When it gets down inside the 10-yard line, they are notoriously known, not only last year, but this year as well. They are notoriously known for just buckling down, and it's just insane how when teams get to that area that they don't score. Whereas teams get to that area against Oregon, they score. I think that's the fact of the matter. So I think this defense has a ways to go. You know, I think if they want to get to the level, if they want to be in that championship conversation, because right now it's kind of hard to connect those two together. When you talk about defense, when you talk about championship, it's kind of hard to put those in the same sentence. When a team like Wisconsin, as one-dimensional as they are, did what they were able to do at times. Of course, it wasn't throughout the entirety of the game. Of course, things kind of changed a little bit in the second half of this ball game as well. I want to talk about some positives for a minute. Let's talk about Jordan Davison. Okay, Jordan Davison started this season as a goal line back, and he is quickly kind of making himself to be, like, arguably the best running back on this team. I know Noah Whittington certainly had a great performance in this ball game as well, but Davison is just that downhill runner, right? A lot like, you know, Royce Freeman during his days with the Ducks. 16 carries, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaging 6.4 yards per pop. And once this offensive line just kind of figured it out in the second half, you saw a lot more of what Jordan Davison certainly had to offer. Noah Whittington, 14 carries, 97 yards. He had a long run of 36. De'Aaron Hill got in the act with 2 carries for 28 yards. As a team, Oregon ran the ball 45 times for 203 yards. Okay, so let's talk about Dante Moore a little bit. And I want to talk about this quarterback situation because it's interesting. It's specifically the backup, which I'll get to that in just a moment. You know, Dante, 9-15, 86 yards. It's pouring rain. It's sideways out there. He goes out with an injury. I'm not sure if there's really a ton we can take away from Dante Moore within this matchup, to be honest with you. But this backup quarterback situation, I said over on the Scoop Duck message board, I'll be like, you cannot convince me that if Dante Moore goes down, and I'll gladly take the L on this one, by the way. If Dante Moore goes down, Brock Thomas is going to see the field. What happened? Dante Moore went down in this game. Maybe I spoke it into existence. Who knows? Dante Moore goes down, and who do we see? Brock Thomas. Now, it looked like before the commercial break on television, Austin Novosad is out there. He's on the field. He's warming up. And then you see Brock Thomas, number 12, take the field. Of course, from Eugene, Oregon, played at Eugene Sheldon, of course, where Justin Herbert went to high school over there. And he goes and, 4 for 4, 46 yards, a touchdown. He had an interception go right through the defender's hands. He was okay. I don't love that this is Oregon's backup quarterback. I want to say that. I don't know what the situation is with Austin Novosad. I think it's a very odd situation. I mean, this guy was a, top 100, top 150 kid coming out of high school, 4-star prospect out of the state of Texas, had a really good relationship in his recruitment, right? That Texas connection with offensive coordinator Will Stein. And we've been told all preseason, it's the battle between Dante Moore, Austin Novosad, Dante Moore, Austin Novosad. And now all of a sudden, we get halfway through the year, and you got a Brock Thomas, a local kid. He's the one kind of getting the nod over Austin Novosad. It's odd. It's odd. I don't know. Nobody knows except Dan Lanning and the coaches within that room to see if Brock Thomas is actually the second most talented quarterback on this team. Okay? Props to the kid for earning the reps. Okay? He deserves all of the credit in the world. I don't know if he's improved that much. If Austin Novosad maybe hasn't developed as much, I'm not sure what it is. But if later in the season Dante Moore goes down, this is a Ducks offense that could be in a little bit of trouble. I just want to say that. And once again, all due respect to Brock Thomas. I will say this about Brock. I thought that he looked better in these weather conditions. There was a throw that, that kind of, I think it set up a score that I thought was pretty good. I mean, on the money, I think it was to Decorian Moore. So, it's just like we were sold this package in the preseason that Austin Novosad was going to be a guy that was truly going to push Dante Moore. And now he hasn't played since the Montana State game. It's a little bit perplexing, but maybe things have changed. Maybe things have changed a little bit. It's just odd. I just wanted to talk about that kind of right off the gate as well. It was ugly. I mean, a win is a win. You'll take it. You go into the bye week, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe if you get better weather in some of these matchups. I want to take a look at some comments here. Let's kind of get it going. Let's get these comments going. Let's get these texts going. Let's go to the TSOW text line first. This is Rick from Eugene. He says, "Let's not overreact to this. It was a weird game. Boy, was it weird." That's a great way to put it. Took some time to get the offense going. As soon as they did, Dante gets knocked out of the game. Now, the run game is what got going down the field. We know that Wisconsin had a great run defense and a bad passing defense. These were facts. If you watch the preview that I put out, if you watch a lot of other, Duck shows or listen to some Duck shows out there, yeah, that's what some of the talking points were. And this was kind of maybe a perfect recipe for Wisconsin to stay in this game as long as they did. Pouring rain, play great run defense right off the bat, and make it a one-possession game for as long as they did. So, and that's kind of the results that you got. Rick goes on to say, but we can't really throw the ball in a downpour, so can attack their weakness. I think that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. Rick, you and I think, are on the same page as this. Oregon did what it was supposed to do, run the damn ball. They ran it much better in the second half than they did in the first half. Once they got it figured out, this offense was moving down the field and scoring some points. So, thank you, Rick from Eugene, for the comment. Andrew comes in and comments, "I know Dante getting hurt is unfortunate, but this game has been an unmitigated disaster." That was at 9:22. I'm pretty sure that was during the game. So he was kind of voicing his frustrations down there in the chat. Duck Disciple comes in, another crap show performance. What a boring and embarrassing game. It certainly wasn't an entertaining game, if that's what you're asking. Team is soft. Okay, Brock Thomas sucks. Tired of that sideshow. Big words there from Duck Disciple coming in. Andrew chiming in, definitely. Thank God the Ducks don't play Ohio State. They might lose by 40. Maybe, Rick, I think you're onto something. There might be a little bit overreacting, considering the downpour and considering the weather in this game. I'm not going to make excuses. I think that this team came out a little bit uninspired, especially earlier on in the game. And then when Dante Moore goes out, it's just tough. It's just like, hey, we're just going to run the ball, and we're going to get out of town late. I will say this. It's unfortunate that they gave up that late touchdown. It's the first time Wisconsin scored in over 3 hours of total football clock game time. Daryl Turner comes in. We won, but not a very exciting or convincing win. Good time for the boys. Hopefully they can figure out what happened on offense and defense and come out hot against Iowa. Here's what I'll say about that Iowa game coming up. That is a team. They look pretty damn good today against Minnesota, doing it the Iowa way, scoring a bunch of points. Maybe that's not the Iowa way. Let me finish my sentence. Scoring on defense, scoring on special teams, along with, just a couple of points on offense as well. So what they did against a 2-loss was a pretty decent Minnesota team going into that. Going into Kinnick, it is not easy. It is not easy. And that is an Iowa team that is playing with a lot of confidence. They are playing with a lot of momentum right now. I would say if you look at the remainder of the season, that game against the Hawkeyes might be the most difficult game remaining on the schedule. Washington, on the road in Seattle, the way they looked against Illinois, maybe that's one that's certainly in that conversation as well. Daryl Turner says, defense played well. That Wisconsin defense was very bad. He was. But that definitely helped. We didn't have much of a pass rush. Yeah, it's kind of the story. It's kind of a story that we've heard multiple times. Secondary linebackers were locked down. Look, I don't know how much you can really judge on Oregon's defense in this game, considering how poor Wisconsin's offense was. And considering not only Wisconsin is very poor offensively, that they were, it was pouring rain out there as well. So there's a lot of that, I think, that you can go into this. Andrew comes in and says, at this rate, the Ducks are going to get housed by USC and Washington. Let's pump the brakes a little bit here, folks. Let's kind of, put that foot on the second pedal a little bit. Yeah, it was not good. It was uninspired, but it was just one of those weird weather type of football games. All right. It's just, it's what it was. Not, once again, I'm not giving this staff, I'm not giving this team, the roster excuses. Even despite the weather, this probably still should have been like a 31 or a 35-0 win when all was said and done. Nick P comes in. He's like, well, Mr. Ted, he called it. I remember seeing this comment. He called it just about as close as you can get. Look at my prediction I made in the comments this morning. Predicted Oregon 24-3. Someone had their eye on the skies, maybe, in that matchup. And here is the Tobalicious69. Epic username. Game didn't look well in the past, but look at the heavy rain and wind. Come on, man. Yeah, I think that's what we need to factor in. It's going to be hard to evaluate this game for Monday's show. It really is, because of all the weather elements that I think got turned into it, and Dante Moore going out and all of these things. There's some things, like I said, that I think you can evaluate, but yeah, especially the run offense and the run defense. I think you can evaluate that a little bit. No excuses, but those guys just played in the worst rainstorm of the year. Man, it was just, especially in the middle of this football game, it just looked like it was pouring and pouring and pouring. Let's open up the TSOW talk line. 541-357-6390. You can call in and be a part of this live post-game show. Here's the Tobalicious69 making a pretty good point. I think we did something that Ohio State couldn't do, and that's run on that defense. Ohio State was held to under 100 yards at Camp Randall Stadium last week. And as we said at the beginning of the program, Oregon rushed for 203 yards, 4.5 yards per pop, and they really got it going. And they were really running downhill in the second half of this matchup. Brandon the Duck chiming in. We are so far away from the goal, it's not funny. Dan looks mad on the sideline. Frustrated. I think that this game certainly was a little bit frustrating. I think it was an opportunity for Oregon to really lay down the hammer and gain a lot of confidence. And I think like early in the game, the way this game was being called, I think they were really looking forward to establishing that run game early. And I kind of said it in the preview. I'm like, how is Will Stein going to approach this? Is he going to approach it, okay, you got a good run defense over there, let's just go over the top. Well, we already said the weather may have prevented them from going over the top consistently throughout this game. So then you need to be able to focus on the run game, maybe the short passing game a little bit. And I think that they had confidence that even if you got into this type of matchup, Wisconsin did not have the talent offensively to be able to score any points, at least until late in the game, and you would have been fine either way. So let's just try to avoid turnovers. That's kind of how it felt early. That's kind of how it felt in the first half. It's like, let's just take care of the football. The rain is coming, and it is going to be coming down hard. And then when it eventually got to that point, it's like, yeah, we're not going to maybe move as much offensively, and maybe it's not going to be the high-scoring affair that maybe we anticipated coming to this game. But let's just kind of get in. I said this in the preview. Let's take that Walmart mentality. Get in and get out and try to stay as healthy as possible. But I say that, and yet here we are with Dante Moore having that injury. But that seems to me that they didn't want to put him back into that game in a situation where you're ahead by multiple scores. You keep on running the ball. Wisconsin can't score. You weren't going to kind of put him in more danger at that point in time. Look, you got a bye week next week. I would be shocked if Dante Moore is not playing when this team goes to Kinnick Stadium in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm going to say this right now. I think there's a lot of overreaction in the chat. I just, and So like here we got from CT, we will lose 3 more games. Now, if this game is, if it's a perfect weather game and this is the type of performance, yeah, I can see where you're at. And there certainly are concerns coming out of this matchup. Like I said before, the run defense early throughout the game, the red zone defense, I think is something as well. The rushing offense throughout the first part of this game. Like this defensive unit for Wisconsin, they were attacking. I mean, Alex Harkey and Isaiah World, they were getting beat in the first half of this matchup. And they were winning battles on those first couple of drives to really limit to what Oregon was doing offensively. Yeah, this is an opportunity. Patrick Ryman chimes in the chat. He says, Dan be chewing backsides the next 2 weeks. This is kind of like Indiana. This is another motivational opportunity for this Oregon team to be like, yeah, weather aside, you guys got to come out and you got to play better football. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. All right, let's see what we got. There's people saying that this is a 9-3 team right now. I want to go to Brandon the Duck because I want to talk about this backup quarterback situation a little bit more. This is the only thing that kind of makes sense to me. Austin Novosad is maybe taking, I don't want to say like a Mekhi Hughes approach because I don't know if that's the case either. But is this a situation where Austin Novosad has indicated to coaches that he intends to leave at the end of the season and he still wants to play, but so now they're giving Brock Thomas a little bit of an effort, a little bit of an opportunity, I should say. I don't know. I'm just trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. And maybe it's simple. Maybe Brock Thomas is just better than Austin Novosad. Maybe I'm overthinking this a little bit, but that's something that popped into my head a little bit. Maybe he's declared what his intentions are at this point. Who knows? Anyone in Eugene knew what the weather was doing. Let's see. Diamond Detailing. These are my guys. These are my guys from up in northeastern Oregon. They missed what happened to Dante Moore. Can someone fill me in? Yeah, Dante Moore in the third quarter of this game. Guy was coming in to tackle him, and his forearm kind of clubbed him right in the nose. And his nose was bleeding, and he got kind of knocked out of the game, and he didn't go back into the game. So, this is not something where he twisted a leg or landed on an arm or a shoulder or anything like that. Guy got hit, boom, just like that, right in the face. So he'll clear the cobwebs out. I think Dante's going to be fine. This is not something I certainly don't anticipate him being out for an extended period of time. But who knows? Maybe Brandon the Duck. Maybe he broke his nose. We'll see. We'll see. We just don't. We don't know all of the details. Certainly at this moment in time. Going to try to get into some more comments here. Retired Merce says, we give up a touchdown 100% of the time when the other team is in the 5. And that's like, at the very least, just get me field goals. I'm not saying you need to force turnovers. I'm not saying you need to, I don't, just, you get the idea. All right. All I'm saying is just like hold them to a field, keep them out of the end zone. I'm not asking for much. It's just when you got to play, you just got to play better. This whole team has to play better. The front has to play tougher, I think, when you get into that type of situation. No doubt. I think that's one of the big things that we need to focus on going forward. Retired Merce says, Wisconsin was the better team. We just have better players. Here's what I will say about that. I just think like the whole of what the weather was doing and what this game turned into, it took a lot of let me say that again. It took a lot out of this game and what the advantages that Oregon had going in. All right, the deep pass game wasn't much of an option going down the field, and it really kind of condensed the game into very a simple style, which, you know, as long as Wisconsin could kind of play good against the run for a half, this is the result that was going to happen in this matchup. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. Yeah, this was it. That was like Patrick brings up, but Novosad was throwing like he was going to go in instead of Brock Thomas. That's what was bizarre. I mean, you go out there and both guys are warming up. So it seemed like unclear right when this Dante Moore injury happened who was going to go into this game. That was very confusing to me. You know, when I kind of saw 16 warming up, I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, okay, now it's time to play Austin Novosad. Brock Thomas had his opportunity. He got in the game great. But now you kind of go in there and it's like, okay, now Brock Thomas is playing. Why was Austin Novosad out there warming up? Was it something, hey, both guys warm up and we're going to pick one of you? I don't know. I don't know. It's a very confusing situation, but I'm sure we'll get clarity at some point in time. The wind played a factor. Juan Batista comes in and comments, Dante was throwing the ball high at the beginning, so it was sailing a little bit. The wind was kind of carrying it. Super windy in Eugene today. And that's why, I mean, there's people out there saying, Oregon's going to go 9-3. Oregon sucks. I mean, it's throwing out all these comments. I'm like, dude, you're playing in a monsoon out there. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. You know, the things that I think we can push back on is the run game early wasn't getting going. Wisconsin was shooting the gaps. They were playing well. And then the run defense wasn't bucking up. You know, maybe like we should have seen with a patchwork Wisconsin offensive line. Other than that, it's just one of those weird, odd games, these weather games, and you're going to get a weather game. Last year, I don't think Oregon had one. It was pretty good weather-wise up there in the Pacific Northwest for the home matchups in their first season in the Big Ten. Retired Merce. I wish we would switch to a 3-4 defense. Okay, right now, 4-2-5 is the base look for Tosh Lupoi scheme. I wish we would switch to a 3-4 with two stand-up linebackers, which are Mateo and Purchase against running teams. You know, Mateo is somebody that maybe I was kind of monitoring the message boards after this one. Mateo was one that was having a fair amount of criticism as well. So Blake Purchase, I will say, I think he maybe even Devin Jackson as well. Devin Jackson is a guy that I think fits well. That would be a really good 3-4 outside linebacker, where it's just like, you know, where there's not a lot of like reading, and it's just like, here, go to the outside, find the football, kind of a thing. So, you know, but I don't anticipate a mid-season scheme-altering change, certainly from Tosh Lupoi. So they're just going to have to figure it out, I think, what they got up there. Retired Mertz also comes in. We need a more stout defense against Iowa. This is the #1 run blocking offensive line in the country, according to PFF. That is an experienced and a really good run blocking offensive line. And they've got some good backs. And Mark Gronowski can also run the ball from the quarterback position as well. That's, I think, the thing that if you want to take something away from this, is where Wisconsin was able to play after play after play throughout portions of the game, where they were able to get a push consistently against this Oregon defensive line. You go and face someone like Iowa, okay, now that's something that needs to get better 2 weeks from now when they go into Kinnick Stadium. That's a takeaway I think we can use coming out of this Wisconsin game and say, yeah, you can maybe correlate as a concern coming down here. Okay. More from Diamond Detailing. Go get your wheels shined up if you're in northeastern Oregon, by the way. The wind was very intense. Most of Oregon is having some extreme weather conditions today. So it's not just maybe up I-5 there in the Eugene area, maybe all across the state over there as well. Yeah, it was just it was a weird game. It put the West in Big Ten West today, going out there playing this type of game out there on the West Coast. So I wanted to pop on here. I kind of wanted to say a few things. I think overall my takeaways are, look, you can't, with the weather conditions that were existing within Eugene, it is really hard to evaluate a lot of this team and a lot of this game. Sometimes you get into these games in this type of later in the season, and you just got to grind out a win. What is it about the Wisconsin Badgers and the Oregon Ducks, where Oregon, of course, last season had a much more talented roster. Now, they were coming off of playing 8 consecutive weeks, so maybe they were worn down a little bit going on the road to that Wisconsin team. But yeah, it was just one of those games. But they got it figured out in the run game in the second half, so they kind of corrected those mistakes that we saw in the first half from how Wisconsin was attacking. But overall, I think defensively, this is a team that probably needs to toughen up. In fact, I think they do need to toughen up a lot more before they play the Iowa Hawkeyes here in just a couple of weeks. All right, so here's what's going to be coming up on TSOW. I'm going to be having the Monday show, kind of reacting to all of this, and then going to be having we got a guest scheduled for a later show on Thursday, kind of doing a home and home podcast. I'm going on theirs, they're going on mine, kind of a deal. But Ducks win 21-7 in this matchup. All right, let's get into a comment here, late comment here from G Bailey 60. I wasn't able to catch the start of the game. Can you summarize what was happening in the first half? Was it weather / a good Panther defense? My answer to that would be yes. Yes, it was both. It was both. I think once you got to like the second quarter, it seemed, and then especially early in the third quarter, that's when the rain, at least to me, appeared to be at its worst. Early in the matchup, it was Wisconsin was knocking Oregon off the line of scrimmage. They were able to run the ball for 3, 4, 5 yards a pop. And they were getting consecutive run plays. And with the weather kind of halting the passing game, I mean, Wisconsin didn't have much of a passing game with Hunter Simmons to begin with. That was the only thing that Wisconsin could do successfully. And Oregon still at times couldn't stop it. And then on the flip side, you had an Oregon team that kind of had trouble running the ball. Kind of shades of what Ohio State had against Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has played well against both the Buckeyes and the Oregon against the run. I know the final stats over 200 yards rushing the football for the Ducks, but certainly early in this matchup, what they were doing defensively was giving Oregon problems before they eventually figured out in the second half. We played a team that was tired of being shut out from Sean McJunction. But hey, glad they got on the scoreboard, glad they were able to get it done, and Tillamook comes out victorious in this cheese war on this specific Saturday night. So once again, we are going to be having a show on Monday night. On Monday during the day. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And then it's bye week. Let's evaluate this team before we get into the final stretch. This is an extremely important 4-game stretch coming up down the road. Iowa, Minnesota, and then the West Coast rivalries with USC and Washington to finish out the season. So until next time, I'm Ted LaRue. This has been that post-game show at West. We will see you on Monday.